This story was sent in by a man named Tyler. He says this happened to him about 6 years ago when he was 24. Tyler was an experienced hiker, not a beginner. He'd done multi-day solo trips through the Appalachians before, and he knew how to handle himself out there. This particular trip took him through a stretch of forest in eastern Tennessee, a trail he'd done once before, but not in October. He'd set out on a Friday morning. Weather looked clear. By early afternoon, something changed. The sky went dark faster than it should have. Not the slow bruise of a normal storm. This was almost sudden. Tyler says the temperature dropped about 15 degrees in under an hour. He remembers stopping on the trail, looking up through the canopy and thinking, "This is going to be bad." He was about 9 miles from his car. He had his tent, he had gear, but the rain, when it came sideways, and it was cold, the kind of cold that gets into your hands before you even realize it. He pushed off the main trail to find shelter, a dense cluster of pines, something to break the wind. That's when he saw it. A cabin. Not a modern one. Old. Logs darkened with age, roof half covered in moss. It sat in a small clearing about 60 yards off the trail, almost completely hidden by the tree line. Tyler says his first feeling was relief, pure, simple relief. He jogged toward it, rain soaking through his jacket. He got to the door, a heavy wooden door with an iron latch, and pushed. It opened. Inside, a single room, stone fireplace, a wooden table, 2 chairs. No electricity, no phone, no sign of recent use. He got a fire going with wood stacked near the hearth. He hung his wet jacket on one of the chairs. He was starting to feel human again. That's when he noticed the windows. There were 2 on the front wall. He'd seen them from outside, but from the inside, they were boarded up. Not carelessly, not like storm damage. Each board had been cut to fit, nailed in place from the inside in neat, deliberate rows. Tyler stood there in the firelight, looking at those boards. And then he looked at the door. There was no lock on the inside, no bolt, no latch, nothing. But there were scratches on the door frame, deep ones, long, parallel lines in the wood, below the handle, like something had been trying to get out. Tyler tells himself there's a rational explanation. Boards to keep drafts out, old scratches, nothing more. He sits, he eats something, he listens to the rain. Around 11 p.m., the storm still howling outside, he decides to try to sleep in the chair. He's almost there, that half-conscious place, when he hears it. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, circling the cabin. Not running, not stumbling through the dark, walking. He sits up, goes completely still. The footsteps stop at the door, a long pause, and then, not a knock, not a voice, not anything he could explain to someone later, just pressure. The sound of weight against the door, slow and steady, like something was leaning into it. Tyler says he grabbed the chair from the table and wedged it under the door handle. Then he backed against the far wall and stayed there. For 40 minutes, he did not move. He did not make a sound. The pressure against the door disappeared sometime around midnight. He never heard it leave. He just realized it was gone. He didn't sleep. He sat in that chair with his back to the fireplace and watched the door until gray light started bleeding through the cracks in the boards. At first light, Tyler opened the door and stepped outside. The rain had stopped. The forest was quiet. That specific early morning quiet that feels total. He looked down at the mud in front of the door. There were tracks, not animal tracks, not boot prints. He describes them as bare feet, but too large. And the space between the toe marks, he says the toes looked spread wide, like whatever made them wasn't used to walking on flat ground. They circled the cabin twice. He followed them all the way around. On the second pass, they just stopped. Not at a tree, not at a trail. They just ended mid-stride in the open clearing. Tyler left his jacket on the chair inside. He didn't go back for it. He says to this day he doesn't know what that cabin was. He doesn't know why the windows were boarded. He doesn't know why there was no lock on the inside of the door. And he doesn't know what was walking around it at 11 o'clock at night in the middle of a storm in eastern Tennessee. He just knows he was in there. And whatever that was, let him leave.